had a question about the spirituality and sexuality discourse. And a question occurred to me. You've said a while ago that the proof that sex is not something that we would, it's not normal to engage in it constantly, because the proof is that if you look at the natural world, you look at animals, that they don't have anything to do rather than, gather food and, take care of themselves, but they're not having sex all day. So my question is, you said that sex is not, the primary basis for sex is not reproduction, but just the enjoyment of it. So does that go for animals as well? Because, or is that just unique to humans, the human species? Because it doesn't seem like animals are overpopulated or that they're engaging in that all the time, and they certainly can. So that was one of my questions.
Why? Why do you care?
Because
why do you care about gorilla sex?
Only because it seemed contradictory to what you were saying, and you said it was like across the board, that it was enjoyment, like the base purpose of it was just enjoyment only. So I'm just curious as a question. I have another question that we can skip that one and I can go on to my next question. How about I go to my next question?
No, we can, we can deal with it.
I don't care about gorilla sex. I'm just it's just for my own understanding. Like, I'm just curious.
Human beings operate on many levels. One level is the animal level. Certainly, a human being is a two-legged creature. So when a gorilla, which is also a two-legged creature, is following the sexual urge, there's no self-consciousness. There's no conceptual I. It's just the instinct and the urge being lived. There's no self-reflection. So you also live on the creature level with no self-reflection, full of urges, full of instincts, full of biological programs, full of chemical reactions, physical manifestations. But human beings are capable of other levels besides the creature level. The creature can't self-reflect, can't question their own experience. In one way, it's a blessing, because they can live that experience, therefore, fully. They can be in the deepest meditative reflection at all times, because there's no conceptual interference. There's no doubting mind to confuse, to turn life's joys and life's pleasures and life's experiences and life's challenges into a problem. So there's no idea of having sex, there's only sex. There's no idea of making babies, there's just babies arriving. But human beings do everything they do with the possibility of self-awareness and expanded awareness. So it gets very muddy. It's very complicated because then the confusion is inevitable. What the heck is going on here? Why am I doing this? What does it mean? No animal, no tree, no creature, no entity that is not self-reflective has ever asked the meaning of anything. So non-self-aware living beings don't have any dilemma to resolve. They just live. The blessing of it is they live in totality. They are absorbed in the whole. They don't feel in any way the separation that you feel. You feel the separation because the conceptual mind brings it in. And sexuality and sexual activity is just a very clear example of how all that works. What's the difference between a sentient being and a non-sentient being? A being that's aware of itself and can question, and a being that is simply fully present and fully engaged and fully participating and fully relating with life all the time. So this kind of question comes up because of the conceptual mind that even takes the gift of pleasure, the gift of connectedness, and makes it into, well, what about gorillas? And what's the comparison between me and something else? So what's significant here is how the desire to understand gets used as a way to obscure the nature of things, so that the mind's questions take precedence over the full participation in the process of life. So you can see how these types of questionings actually end up taking you down a road that just is a merry-go-round. It goes round and round, and you get the answer to one, and you get the answer to another, and more questions are inevitably going to arise out of that. Now, the questioning mind has no place in sexuality. That's why sexuality is such a good example. It's so obvious to people when they hear it that what's the mind got to do? What's the questioning process got to do with sexual experience? Absolutely nothing. Sexual experience is the pleasure realm and the connection realm, not the conceptual realm. But even something as basic and simple as that becomes a mind problem. Well, you said this, and then you said that, and let's try to figure out what it is for gorillas. But the gorillas aren't sitting around trying to figure out how it's like, what it's like, and how it is for Aiden. Or for human beings. They're simply available to relate to human beings when human beings show up. So be aware enough to not so readily allow the mind to co-opt every single area of life and bring what seem like valid questions, attempts to understand into your quest for knowledge, and make your quest for knowledge actually much more significant and not so easily, we all do this, not so easily fall into trivialities. Like, what about gorilla sex? What's the difference between people sex and gorilla sex? The difference is the gorilla doesn't have a problem about it.
Okay, thank you. And
Now, I'm trying really hard, and it's music to my ears when I hear somebody say what you said, that, well, you said this, and another time you said that, and it seems contradictory. I'm trying really hard to be as contradictory as I can be. And I'm not gifted in it. I'm not really good at it. I have to assume that because people keep telling me that makes sense whenever I say something. And I've got to get better at being in your understanding, your way of hearing it, super contradictory, because I have to do everything possible, everything under the sun, everything I can come up with to break your delusion, your stranglehold that your mind has on you, that there is an absolute answer, that your spiritual search is about getting the final answer. That's the most significant delusion you carry. That's the root, the actual root of the problem, the actual barrier to being open to truth for real. The idea, the concept that you carry unconsciously and sometimes somewhat consciously, you become aware of it, that you're looking for an answer because you unquestioningly believe deep down that God will be knowable, truth will arrive through getting the absolute final answer, the true explanation. You believe very deeply that there's a true explanation possible. And if you can just get to it, if the right moment of clarity can line up for you, you'll suddenly see it or hear it, or it'll all fall into place, and then you're enlightened. Or then you've come home to God, or then truth has arrived. And this massive delusion persists almost until the very end, almost until the desperate hour. It just will not leave you easily. It just insists on keeping its hand on your throat tenaciously. It will not simply glide away. It won't simply slip off. It's so deeply rooted in you because you so believe in the mind's interpretation that the final belief, the deepest belief, is that you can get the real answer. And this is pure delusion, pure illusion, pure imagination, pure conceptualization, pure mind trick, with many, many threads in it. Artifact of language, artifact of education, upbringing, socialization. Everything helps anchor it. Everything helps keep it in place. Everything gets piled on top of it, so it's so buried that you don't even consciously feel it as your primary motive. But it's always your primary motive. Get the answer to life. Figure it out. Find the person who can give it to you. Pray the right way so that grace or God will bestow it on you. Read every book you can get your hands on that might have a tidbit enough that reveals it to you. Go to enough spiritual teachers and masters and swamis and yogis and practice this and do that. And somehow, by some mysterious magic, sooner or later you'll fall upon the actual answer. And then everything will be resolved for you. Then you will be finally done and your search will have succeeded and you'll have it. That's your map of this whole spiritual quest, this whole spiritual seeker position, this whole spiritual life. But that map is your mind's nonsensical idea. Has no basis in anything actual, anything real, anything that's living, anything that represents the spiritual actuality of all that is. Even trying to explain it to you and lay it out is difficult because nothing can be said sharp and clear about it because your belief is so inured, so deep, that that is what's going on. You are trying to get to the actual answer. And the truth itself has nothing to do with any actual answer. Has nothing to do with any final and total and complete explanation. You cannot explain life, and truth cannot be told, and God cannot be gotten to. It will never happen the way your mind believes it will. And until that base delusion is completely shattered, completely trampled, splintered up into the tiniest pieces possible so that no vestige of it is still operating in you, so that you've completely become disillusioned with the idea of getting an answer, so that you're desperate because the idea of getting an answer is the boat you've been sailing in. And suddenly the boat's in splinters and you're in the water and you don't even know how that happened until that desperate moment happens. That delusion keeps out every possibility of something real. And I haven't succeeded yet in coming up with a way of simply smashing it to bits for you. But I'm not ever giving up, so persistent bastard that I am, I have to find a way to contradict myself more, confuse you more, shock you more, shake you up more, and make you more desperate. Make you feel like you're floating in the ocean holding on to a 2x4. instead of sitting in a comfortable boat that's going to take you to the other side of the beyond. Until every crutch you use has been taken away from you, until you're not sure anymore what's ever been said to you and what it means, until everything you thought you knew is up in smoke. You'll continue to believe in some form that there's an answer, that there is an absolute that can be arrived at. But the absolute reveals itself only when that answer-seeking process is destroyed, when that whole approach in you has crumbled, so that you can't even say what you are and what you're doing. You wouldn't dare open your mouth about it because you know whatever you're going to say isn't correct. When all the compasses are non-operative, only then can something real enter. Your idea, the base belief I'm talking about, is based on a notion that you will get to it. And the actuality of it is that's not possible, because the only way it ever works is it gets to you. And until that actually happens, you're in the way. It can't get to you now yet because you're in the way. When you're out of the way, when just space is there where you used to be, then it suddenly arrives. Then it has a way to enter. But as long as there's any you there, it can only hint. It can only come as a hint. It can't come as its actual self, as the actual nature of what it is. So when you listen to me, and when you come to me, and when we commune, your mind is fixed on the idea that I'm going to say something sooner or later that will give you the truth itself, that will take you to God for real. That keeps you coming, but it also keeps you in delusion, because it will never happen. So you are completely guaranteed to fail. Your entire spiritual sincerity will completely and utterly fail. In that desperate hour, you have the chance, if the failure is complete enough, if you're truly devastated, if everything has been grabbed out of your hands, if you have nothing left to clutch, in that desperate moment, there's a chance for something real to arrive. But everything you do and every movement you make is designed has the purpose of preventing that situation. Everything you do in such a way as to try to give yourself, guarantee yourself, have for yourself some kind of comfort, some kind of interpretation, some kind of, it has to make sense. And that mind-created need keeps out reality, prevents any deeper truth, real truth, full truth. So you have the idea that your spiritual seeking is for the purpose of finding. But there will never be any finding until the whole idea collapses, until you absolutely fail all the way, until you've exhausted every attempt and every road, and finally get to the point where it's unavoidably clear to you that they're all dead ends. So I just try to give you something to look forward to. You can look forward to the complete failure of your spiritual goals. Until you fail utterly, you're not trying hard enough. Until you fail miserably, you haven't put your whole heart and soul into it. Until you feel like the whole thing is lost. It's all been for nothing. It absolutely has all crumbled. Now there's no hope whatsoever. Until that is your feeling state regarding your quest for God, your search for truth, you'll stay in the mind delusion that you'll hear the answer sooner or later. Now, back to gorilla sex.
No, that's all. Thank you. No, really, just listening to you, my comment evaporated because it doesn't seem important at all. So, thank you.
Okay. Gilana has a question.
Hi there. So I was really interested in hearing what you just said because it always seemed to me on the flip side. Am I echoing? Is that okay?
I just ask, excuse me for one moment. Anybody on the phone, your audio is significantly louder than any other audio. So if you could talk a little soft, that would be very wonderful for us. Thank you.
So when I think about that desire that all spiritual seekers have, that we have, it seems to me that it's a desire of the heart rather than the head. I may be wrong, but it seems like that tremendous desire to get the answer goes directly towards the guru, demanding an answer, and that it seems as though that the answer comes, just as you said, that it's more of an answer to the heart rather than to the head. I understand the falling apart of everything because the mind has to be exhausted. But the question is, doesn't that answer that we desire so deeply come after that through the heart? And isn't there a quenching of that desire in that way?
No. The desire doesn't get satisfied or quenched, it gets extinguished. And when it gets extinguished, when it collapses, along with it collapses the concept that there's a final answer. So the phrasing of the question has in it, continuing to operate in it, the belief that there's an answer. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is there's no answer. Because an answer assumes the question has validity. The desire is right. The desire is real. But the idea that it has the form of a question that then finds the answer is the delusion. So even if we experience it as a heart-based desire, that's not the point. It doesn't matter how we conceptualize or how we experience the process of it, the nature of it, the experiencing of it. The only point that matters is that we are very, very stuck on the notion that we're going to get the absolute final answer, and that's the form of it. It's a question, and it brings the answer. And all I'm trying to put on the table is there's no answer. When the question is exhausted all the way, then you despair. Then you recognize, I'm not going to get the answer. Maybe there isn't even any real answer. Whether it's experienced as I can't get it, I won't get it, or it doesn't even exist. That despair is the spiritual success. That devastation is the actual goal. So that all these mind spins finally collapse, finally unwind. So that the mind finally, for the first time, doesn't have a single tether in you anymore. You have collapsed so low, fallen so far, given up so truly, that the mind can't be in charge anymore. Because the mind is just the whole idea of questions and answers. The simplest characterization of what is a person's mind in operation is a question and answer process. When that whole process falls apart, something gets revealed. But it's not a moment of bliss and joy. It's a moment of devastation. It's a moment of despair. It's a moment of complete failure and absolute giving up, because there's nothing else you can do. If everything has crumbled, what can you do except experience the devastation of it? When the entire house has burned down, what can you do except stand there and feel terrible, thinking you've lost everything, thinking that all your efforts have been completely in vain, unless that totality of giving up actually happens. Something in you, mind-based, keeps trying to sort it out. And that sorting out process becomes your base belief about what the spiritual process and the spiritual quest and truth seeking is all about. So the whole point is for that to get shattered in you. That's not your intention. But that's truth's intention, because it would like to arrive for you. It would like to reveal itself. God would like to embrace you, but you're in the way. You believe yourself to be the I that you refer to yourself as, but that's also a concept, also mind-based, also constructed, not an actuality, not existentially provable. So your question is a nicer elaboration of the situation, but isn't therefore any truer, because it's another idea. It's one more idea, a nicer idea of the heart, nicer than of the mind, more appealing, but one more attempt to get out of the delusion and find yourself still caught in the delusion. It's completely quicksand.
Okay. You're saying the desire.
The desire is right. The idea about how it works is wrong.
And yet, that's the way it works for so many.
No, not so many. Everyone. Every single one.
So should we feel as though we should stop desire and work towards that?
How are you going to stop desire?
That's what I'm saying.
You have to do everything that's right for you to do and leave no stone unturned and put your whole self in it and be willing to work hard so that as soon as possible you can utterly fail. So you're not postponing one day more than it has to be that complete failure. I'm patiently waiting for you to fail miserably.
You know what wrong. It's already happening.
No, I'm always hearing about success.
Okay, I'll start telling you more about failure.
You can't really tell about failure. When you tell about failure, you're actually presenting success. So when the real failure happens, you won't tell me, I'll tell you.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, my Quinn.
Hi. Okay, the last two answers that you gave, it spoke to me. I've tried a lot. I've dived in a lot to a lot of things, and I found myself saying the past few months, I don't want to be here. I've tried everything, and I'm just done. And also the past few months,
I don't want to be
even
here.
last night,
I don't want to be here as a form of success. I don't want to be.
Well,
If it's not utter failure, it's some version of success. So I don't want to be here is not failure, because
Right.
it's just an attempt at escaping, finding a way out. Because when the real failure happens, you don't have the strength to even have the thought, let alone make the statement out loud, I don't want to be here. You can't even say it to yourself. It's more devastating than that. You are so devastated that there's nothing you're capable of saying to yourself. Even, I don't want to be here, or it's all for nothing. You can't say that to yourself if you've truly failed. If you've gotten to the point of failure I'm talking about, you won't be saying anything to yourself because you will be a puddle on the floor. A puddle can't say anything. A puddle is just reduced to incapability. Get me out of here is still a mind statement. It's still the delusion. It's still successful because it assumes you're somewhere and you can go somewhere else. It assumes power. Get me out of here. I want to go somewhere else. I don't like it here. It hasn't worked out. That isn't the true failure. That's a mini failure. That's an idea of failure. It isn't the actual failure. The actual failure has no voice. Can't complain. Can't say anything. It's too destroyed to be able to react. It can just be in the destruction. It's the pile of rubble. The pile of rubble doesn't say, look how bad this is. I wish I could get away. The pile of rubble is just rubble. So I believe you that you've tried many things, and I believe you that they've all failed, but you haven't gotten to the final failure, the true failure. And listening to me, your mind wants to convince you that maybe I have. Maybe I failed all the way and I just didn't understand what was going on, and he's explaining it, so good for me. But you're still succeeding very well. You can't make yourself fail. You can only fail by trying all the way to succeed.
Okay. Thank you, Swami Premodaya.
Thank you, Disciple Quinn. So what's it like 2 weeks or 3 weeks? 3 weeks, I think. What's it like 3 weeks into discipleship?
There's been a lot going on lately. The flip side to this is even though I find myself at times saying I give up, there's been a lot of moments where I'm in it, like I'm connected to everything, and I mean these moments last for 2 or 3 minutes sometimes, where I could see myself. I could see a character that's been acting out, and I could see that there's a backstage, and I never knew that there was a backstage my entire life, where I could just switch on and off like any wardrobe that I want, and I just felt that I was locked into this character, and it was nice. It's nice to be in these moments. I mean, nice is like such an understatement. It's just a relief. It's just, there's no more baggage. There's no more anything. And, like last night happened for 2 or 3 minutes and then gone. So that's been last couple of weeks. It's been like frequently instead of like once a month or once, or like it's happened like 2-3 times in the past week or so.
Great. That's a more enjoyable level of delusion. And I always want people to enjoy as much as they can. But if you mistake that for now it's real, then you're falling for yet another thought, another interpretation of the mind. So continue to see everything that seems like an improvement as another idea, a new and improved idea, a much more enjoyable, pleasurable idea. But don't be fooled that it's now not an idea anymore. It's still an idea, just a nicer one.
Yes.
That's what failure means. Failure means no more idea is possible. Until the failure, it'll all be an idea that seems more and more real and more like you're getting to the goal and more like you're beyond the mind. And more like bliss and more like fulfillment and more like connection and more like oneness. But that'll just be another better idea.
Yeah. Yes.
It's all mind until you fail completely.
Yeah. And it is relentless. It seems like it will never give up. The mind.
Well, that's why you have to fail completely, because when you fail completely, that's the utter failure of the mind.
Yeah.
Because until that failure is real, on some level, obscure or not, you continue to believe you're the mind. The mind continues to convince you that you and it are the same. That your idea of you and your experience of you is the actuality of you. And that's an idea. It's an idea that has an experiential hold in you, but it's not a true experience. It's a created experience, manufactured, mind manufactured. Very, very pervasive, very, very solid, very, very full of validity, and how could it be otherwise, because you're feeling it and sensing it and believing it and really, really in it every moment, every second. It never has any holes in it. So you won't ever find the way out. You won't climb out. You won't extricate yourself. That's what you think the spiritual search is, how to extricate yourself. But that's never going to happen. What's going to happen if you succeed is you'll get to the dead end of complete failure. But people have already spoken it. Just in my saying these few things right now, people have already alluded to, well, should I make failing my goal? Can't be done. how can you have failure as a goal? Failure happens because all the goals failed. The goal has to be to succeed. Without that, no failure can happen. The goal can't be to fail, because then if you reach the goal, you've succeeded. That means you fooled yourself into, I failed. You just believed it so much that now you're hallucinating that. The failure has to be a real failure. The collapse has to be a true collapse. Otherwise, it's just mind camouflage.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I can actually, the mind camouflage is starting to be more visible, like, especially lately.
That's great, but it's another trick. See, now I can see the camouflage more clearly. It's all delusion until you fail. That's the way to understand it, because it won't make any difference. It won't prevent anything or speed up anything, but why not understand that it's all delusion until it's not? And if the idea enters in, now I'm beyond delusion, one thing's for sure, that's another delusion. Because it won't ever happen as an idea. That's what collapses. The notion, the sense that there'll be any idea involved, any thought, any seeing. When you lose all hope of seeing anything, that's the devastation I'm talking about. That's the despair I'm talking about. I've tried my whole life, my whole spiritual life to see the truth, and now it seems that it's impossible to ever see anything. That's the failure I'm talking about. When you stop believing in the possibility of seeing, of knowing, of getting the answer, of arriving. When you've invested every penny you have, and then the stock market crashes. Now, just for fun, I will tell you that I have no idea why this is all being expressed, because everything everybody has said since the moment we started, every question that's been asked, I've moved to answer, and this other stuff has been said instead. So that's you. I'm not more than usual. I'm not involved in these answers. This is not what my mouth opened to say. It's very available to me. I'm very clear that I opened my mouth to give you the answer, and instead this came out to every question. So don't blame me. I was going to give you a very different answer.
It spoke to exactly what you hit on exactly what I've been going through the past few months.
I told you, don't blame me. I accept no blame. Amy has a question.
Is it delusion whether I speak it or not?
I didn't hear the first part. Say it again.
Is it delusion whether I speak it or not?
Yes. There's nothing wrong with delusion. It's all we've got. Don't spend one needless second concerned or worried about, well, if it's all delusion, don't worry about that. That's not a problem. That's like the guy who's trying to get to the other side of the river. He's swimming across the river, and he suddenly becomes aware that swimming in the river, of course he's all wet. He was focused on the swimming. He was really so focused on swimming and getting to the other bank that he wasn't really paying attention and aware that he's in the water, therefore all wet. He wasn't having the sensation of wetness. He was busy swimming. And suddenly he relaxed a little in his swimming and his awareness shifted, and suddenly he's aware of being all wet. That's what that's what you're talking about. That suddenly feeling the sense of delusion, or getting the point when I explain it that, oh my God, it's all delusion, that's just noticing you're all wet. But you've always been all wet. You've been in the river the whole time, and it doesn't change the swimming and the moving towards the getting to the other bank where you can climb out and you won't be all wet anymore. But until you get to the other shore, until you climb out of the river and onto the dry land, there's no way to not be all wet. So the delusion part is not a problem. It's the wetness of swimming. See the point? Sure,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Exactly, right?
Because the question is everybody's question, because everybody feels it sooner or later if they understand what we're talking about, that everybody has the reaction, oh my God, all delusion? Really? All of it? All along the way? Fucked up. Who would want that? That's bad news. That's horrible.
I don't think that's really like shocking to me. That's
Yeah,
more
shocking.
Like,
Really, 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 really not a happy thought. But it's not a problem, because it's like recognizing you're all wet when you're in the water. It's the nature of being in the water. And the nature of trying to get to God, trying to get to truth, is you move through delusion right up until the second that truth is actual, that God really is apparent with no ifs, ands, or buts.
So if wetness is delusion, what's swimming?
You. What you call I is the activity of swimming. But what you call I is just an activity. You think it's a person. But is swimming a person? No. A person swims. So your active I is just swimming, trying to get somewhere, trying to get to the other side, trying to get out of the water. Treading water is too boring. That doesn't seem like the right thing to do, so you swim. If the wetness is delusion, what am I? You're the swimming. You're not the one who swims. That's the true self. But your experience of the I, that's the swimming. And sometimes it feels to you like you're elegantly gliding through the water, and other times it feels like you're flailing and following water.
Sorry, it was loud. I'm sorry, that's so apt.
I'm hoping for the day that people don't apologize for when they laugh or cry or have any true and innocent reaction. All these apologies are like grate on me.
Well, I'm apologizing to the other people in the room who had to go,
So I say these apologies grate on me, and the first thing they say is, well, I apologize for...
She's Canadian.
I know. It's not a Canadian thing. It's a spiritual seeker thing. Conventional people never apologize.
Oh my.
Spiritual seekers are always apologizing. Sorry. Sorry I opened my mouth. Sorry I'm alive. I hope I haven't disturbed you. I don't want to take up everybody's time.
So me.
It's so me. I'm sorry. I apologize for the whole country of Canada.
You're a sorry lot.
Who's sorry now? Who's sorry now? That's the national anthem of Canada. Who's sorry now? Yes, is that a request to speak? Or just a gorilla imitation? Who is that? Oh.
Faceless.
Yeah, you're just a black mass.
It's gliding.
Yeah, you're doing it on purpose. Don't think we don't know. And it's about time you apologized. But if you can't do it, Amy will do it for you. She'll be happy to apologize on your behalf. He can't help it. I apologize for Quinn. He really doesn't mean it. He's very sorry. It's okay, Quinn. Don't you worry.
I appreciate this.
It's all good. He's always got this Mary Magdalene thing going on. I feel pretty. I feel pretty. Is Layla online or on the phone? Well, then Quinn is the only true comic relief, huh?
Just making sure I have the right spiritual.
Manya has a question.
Hi, I'm going to try to speak softly.
And
I
carry
just had a question of
We started with an apology.
what's that?
Go right ahead.
A few months ago, you had said that something about you can only kind of grope your way there through feeling awareness. You talked about feeling awareness. And when I went through this process regarding changing my name, and at first did all this cognitive stuff, and then really went and got into it was much more a feeling of what was right. It was a feeling direction. And I just wanted to know, does that have anything to do with the feeling awareness that you were referring to, or completely unrelated? And I guess to say in my process, just when I feel, I guess energetically, but it really was a feeling of the energetic rightness. I use the term, rightness. That it was, at the end of the day, very much a feeling.
Yeah, so anything that's more feeling and less thinking is what I'm talking about. It's just that simple. More feeling, less thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess what it occurred to me after the fact, because when I started the process, I'm going to call it like the process of analysis of decision, making a decision, it was very cognitive. But at the end, as I actually made it, it very much switched to a feeling base. So, I was like, hey, let me ask about this. Okay, thank you.
A question from Lindsay. Where's Lindsay?
Here.
Where are you, though? What part of the world are you?
I'm from Toronto.
Toronto.
Yes. Okay, so my question is, I'm having difficulty knowing what my feelings are. And I think I have developed this tendency to over-intellectualize things. And I actually don't know what is feeling and how do you know what you're feeling versus what you're thinking. Or I don't know.
Excellent. So that's the perfect place to be. That's the beginning. That's the start of something big.
Mm.
Because until then, you're caught in the impossible situation of believing that you do know what feeling is and that you can think your way through and that will be the solution. But when you get to the point of this type of failure, which is the beginning of success, that I don't even know how to feel. I'm not even sure I am feeling anything. I don't even know how to put it into words. And I see that I'm over involved with thinking and that I have too much faith in the thinking process and the mind's ideas. Until that's absolutely finally clear to you and you're saying it is, it's just merry-go-round time. So now you are putting one foot finally off the merry-go-round. So this is very good news. This is the right place to be. You are absolutely going in the right direction. So don't anguish over it. Don't make it needlessly a problem, a dilemma that now you need to solve this situation. Now you're finally in the right place.
What if you can't like handle the way you're feeling? Like you don't know what to do.
When you don't know what to do, don't do anything.
What if it's like really uncomfortable?
When it's really uncomfortable, accept the discomfort because it'll have fruit. It won't be permanent discomfort. We're all conditioned to think discomfort is bad. In this case, yeah, if you're sitting on a pile of nails, discomfort is bad. But in this case, discomfort is good. It's a good sign. It means it's real. It means you're actually reaching a true possibility, that now you can have a shot at getting off the merry-go-round. And now you can have the true possibility that you won't be a captive of your own mind for the rest of your life. So, of course, this kind of transition is uncomfortable. All transitions are uncomfortable. It's nice to be in your own home, and it's nice to go to a wonderful foreign tropical island, but the getting there, the getting to the airport, getting on the plane, sitting in a plane that's flying through the air and you're locked in and you don't have a lot of room and the food sucks, that's uncomfortable. That's transition. The transition is always uncomfortable. That's the nature of it. So bear it with the cheerful attitude that I'm in the right place and it's going in the right direction. And of course, it's going to include temporary discomfort. What you need to know is it's temporary.
Okay.
So this is a good thing that feels bad. So you know how you feel. You feel bad, uncomfortable, disoriented, unsure.
But it keeps like when it goes away, it like keeps coming back.
When it goes away, what?
It keeps coming back.
Yeah.
Like it goes away and it.
Because you're trying to change it into something comfortable, so it'll keep coming back. You have to sit in the discomfort without complaining to yourself. You have to just let the plane fly and see where it lands. You're not the pilot. That's just trying to be the pilot. Get the plane down on solid ground faster. You haven't accepted the discomfort. You think there's a danger it could last the rest of your life, but my job is to tell you absolutely for sure I know it won't last. It's a temporary price to pay.
Okay.
You're more sincere than you've ever been, and that's going to pay off. And when you get more sincere, more serious, it gets more uncomfortable. But that's temporary. That's just the transition.
So you just deal with it?
You just accept that that's how it works. And be okay with it. Be okay with being uncomfortable. It's part of life. Can't be avoided. It means you're growing for real. It means something is changing. And it takes time for the change to be clear, to arrive completely. So until then, it feels uncomfortable because you're not sure what the heck's going on. But that discomfort is a small price to pay for where you're headed.
Okay.
Society teaches us that we should reject all discomfort, that discomfort is very, very bad. It means something bad is happening. But it doesn't. That's a false teaching. It just means there's discomfort right now. And discomfort means something is changing. Something isn't static the way it's always been. Something is moving. Something old is going away and something new is trying to come. That's discomfort.
And when it comes, you feel good all the time?
No. You feel good all the time when you're completely willing for discomfort and for not feeling good. That's when you feel good all the time, when you're no longer concerned with how you feel. Trying to feel good isn't worth the effort.
Okay.
Seeing what's really there is worth the effort and doesn't always mean it'll feel good.
There's so much there. How can you know what to pay attention to?
Let me put it this way. One thing is guaranteed if you're alive. If you're an alive human being, one thing is guaranteed. There'll be moments where you feel good, and there'll be moments where you don't feel good. And the idea that you should feel good every moment is most people's idea. It's very conditioned. It's very societally given. And it's complete nonsense. Every life has good moments and bad moments, good feelings and bad feelings, pleasant and unpleasant, pleasure and pain. That's the nature of life. So give up as quick as you can. Just even this simple explanation from me, use it to completely give up the idea that you're supposed to feel good all the time or most of the time. That's a crazy notion. That's not how life works. And no human being has ever felt good all the time, and no human being who will ever be on this planet will ever feel good all the time. It's not possible, and it's not even desirable. It's just an idea we have that life is good if I feel good all the time. But it's not possible. Life includes pleasure, life includes pain. Life includes feeling good, and life includes feeling not good. Accept it. Accept the simple, obvious truth of that right now. Don't ever again for 1 second have the idea that I should feel good all the time. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's my problem. I think that I have to feel good all the time.
So can you give it up right now? Isn't what I just said, doesn't it make complete sense?
Yeah. It's just a tough cookie to swallow.
Yeah, well, I chewed it up for you and
But one of those healthy, like, gluten-free cookies.
What?
It's like one of those healthy gluten-free cookies. They're not so healthy.
I'm the gluten-free guru. I must know what I'm talking about. I have a beard.
Do you think you can find truth in other places? Like, I'm going to Israel, where like I expect things
You
to
won't
get
find
better.
any truth there.
Shut up.
I guarantee you, you will find no truth in Israel. You'll visit truly some of the most holy places on this earth. But then you'll talk to an Israeli and all holiness will go away. There's nowhere where truth isn't, so you can't find it in one special place.
Mhm.
You know what is it, falafel? You're going to be hearing that many times a day.
I can accept that.
First trip?
Yeah, I'm going to learn.
Yeah, you're intelligent, so it'll be your last. You only have to know one thing. Israelis have become the most closed-minded people on the planet. So,
Really?
yeah, you're not going to like that aspect of Israel. That Israelis are just capable of a monologue, no dialogue. You'll see it soon enough. It'll be clear to you very quickly after you land. So don't get needlessly frustrated with that. That's just how they are. Then you can enjoy what Israel has to offer.
Okay.
And you can consider yourself inoculated now. Now you know. Most people go to Israel and they don't know that it's going to be a difficult experience because Israelis are so obstinate because they're so closed-minded. They can't have an exchange with you. They can only dictate to you. So
Really?
if you know that that's how it is and you don't fall into being all upset about it and weirded out by it and rejecting because of it, then you can have a nice time and enjoy what Israel has to enjoy.
How do you connect to them then?
You don't. You really get it that these people are not available to connect to. They already have all the answers. They don't want your version.
Mm.
So you just enjoy what there is to enjoy about a whole population or individuals who are closed-minded.
Mm.
Then you won't be needlessly frustrated that you can't connect. You can connect from your side. Don't worry about their side. Their side
Well, how do you connect
have
with that
no
other people's,
connection.
like, vision? Like, don't they have to participate in order to connect?
No. You do the connecting and don't worry about them. It doesn't take two to connect. It only takes the one who would like to connect to do it.
Explain, what do you mean?
Well, the frustrating feeling you're having now, that's how it feels to talk to Israelis.
But I mean, like, don't we need to have two people to connect?
No,
Like, don't they both need to connect each other
no,
to be a connection?
no. It takes two to tango, but only one to connect.
What am I connecting to then?
Your own good intention to connect with the other person. They don't have to be capable of it. If you're capable of it, that's enough. You get the benefit of it. It's not for them, it's for you. It's for them if they can connect from the other side, but you'll find there isn't a single true Israeli who could do that. They'll tell you. They'll tell you when the connection is there. They'll tell you we're connected, and it'll be their version. You understand? Don't worry about it. I take care. I'm only talking about the Jewish Israelis, by the way. Only the Jewish Israelis. The Arab Israelis, this doesn't apply. They're not closed-minded.
Well,
Enjoy Israel. We had a fantastic time there very recently, but we were shocked at the closed-mindedness. That's all.
really? You went there recently?
Yes. We had a Holy Land pilgrimage tour.
Where did you go?
Everywhere except the South.
Have you heard of Mayanot?
Of what?
Mayanot in Jerusalem?
I've blotted the whole thing out.
It's the school that I'm going to go into.
We had a fantastic Israeli tour, Israeli time, and you will too. Don't worry. It's very simple what I'm saying to you. Israelis are closed-minded. That's all. It's very simple. It's nothing to worry about. You'll see for yourself. All I'm saying is don't let that bother you. Don't let that frustrate you. You're not going to open their minds. Don't worry.
Okay.
Just enjoy. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get you to failure as quick as possible. But I only succeed all the way when you fail all the way. And the imagined failures along the way aren't significant. They're just your idea. They're just another mind trick. They're just another form of subtler and subtler delusion. Only the real failure is a true failure. And only the real failure can succeed. Every success doesn't succeed. And every non-total failure is just a version of success. Spiritual life is about failing completely. And you can't fail completely unless you're trying your hardest to succeed. This is the catch-22 you're in. It's a complete conundrum. It's completely an impossible situation. It's an absolute 100% catch-22. And you're stuck in it. There's no way out. It has to be lived out. You can't take a pass. You can't hire someone to do it for you. You can't escape or take a vacation from it. It's the existential dilemma itself. And it's the only actual task you're ever involved in. You slog your way through and along the way, every idea you have about it, about what's going on other than you're slogging your way through, is a mind delusion, a mind trick, a subtler idea. So be happy to be deluded, because it's the only possibility, and it's the way to God. Everybody starts at delusion, and everybody stays at delusion until the actual success of failure is real. And then you somehow find you're out of the way and something else is there. There's no answer. But the truth is there. There's no arrival. But God is there. I'm completely, absolutely, utterly invested in your failure. I'm doing my very best to help you fail. I will never give up helping you fail. But until then, you have to do your part. You have to keep trying to succeed. Because if you stop trying to succeed, if you try to wiggle out of the delusional position, then you're not trying hard enough, and there's no way to truly fail. So forget all about cooperating with failure and keep trying to succeed. You have no other option. I'm here to make sure you fail. Your job is to make sure you succeed, and I'll make sure you fail. You don't have to worry about it. That's my job. You have to worry about making sure you're holding nothing back. You're giving your all. Your whole heart and soul is in it. You're not half-hearted. You want God for real. You want truth all the way. You can't be concerned with how to fail. That wouldn't make any sense. But just as you think you're finally in the right moment and the answer is about to be revealed and you think the actual success is right at hand, right around the corner, I'll be there, stick out my leg. Just as you're running across the finish line in your mind, I'll stick out my leg and you'll tumble on your face. I promise I'll trip you for real. I promise. I promise I will make sure you don't succeed. But you have to get to the finish line. I can't trip you before that. There's no point. It's a waste of time. Then I'm just delaying you. I'm just waiting at the finish line, ready to trip you for real. You are not going to cross the finish line. It's never going to happen. I can absolutely tell you you can count on it. You can count on it. I'll prevent it. But you've still got to try with all your heart and soul. You've got to absolutely intend to win that race, or else you won't run far enough and fast enough, and I'll never get the chance to trip you because you won't get near the finish line. So there's nothing to worry about.